Why do Shaolin monks wear orange?
The Shaolin Temple was burned down 400 years ago. These new people have nothing to do with the Shaolin monks that were destroyed a long time ago.
No, seriously. These are Shaolin Kung Fu monks with their orange robes, flying acrobatics, and tornado kicks.
I love Kung Fu!
So I asked Dr. Alexus McLeod. He's a professor at Indiana University who studies Chinese history.
Back to this figure, Bodhidharma, the Indian monk a South Asian monk who comes to China.
Sorry, Indian? This video is about how the world's most ancient martial art was only invented in 1982.
The major legend surrounding Bodhidharma in the martial arts is that he came to Shaolin and taught the martial arts.
So, Kung Fu is Indian?
No.
The only evidence we have from it is claims from the 17th century that are somewhat dubious.
But then why did he say it all traces back to that guy? Was this Bodhidharma ever real?
He is real, likely real. He is very much associated with the monastic kind of image. Monks with the big orange robes with beads around their necks.
That's where they get the orange robes and the shaved heads from. Kind of funny to think that Shaolin warrior monks keep a bald head because some Indian dude passing through one time was also bald.
You sure you want to do this, bro? Just cut it all off.
But did he or did he not teach them Shaolin Kung Fu?
There could have very much have been physical exercises that he taught, but the only evidence we have from it is claimed from the 17th century that are. The text is extremely unreliable. The Kung Fu is just a kind of term for effort.
Wait, Kung Fu isn't even a martial art?
Wushu is literally martial arts, translated as martial arts in English.
That's a hard pill to swallow, because you're telling me, since I've seen an MMA bout or a BJJ competition or even a backyard brawl, every time I was watching Wushu? So Kung Fu literally means skill achieved through hard work in Chinese, and it can refer to any discipline or skill developed through effort and practice. So I guess if you've developed skill with an instrument, you also know Kung Fu.
Is mayonnaise an instrument?
But rage bait semantics aside, I'm pretty sure there were real Shaolin fighters, right? I did some reading at my local library and I found this record in 621 CE where monks from Shaolin helped a future emperor named Li Shimin win a military battle. Then again in 1553, Shaolin monks were mobilized to fight Wokou pirates on China's southern coast. These guys even wielded the iconic bow staffs.
We don't really know of a martial tradition being there at that point. There's a distinction between fighting in a military sense and fighting in a martial arts sense.
Now it really feels like we're just getting into semantics.
The kind of fighting that monks at Shaolin were engaged in probably wasn't very much at all like martial arts.
Just because these people weren't studying martial arts katas, they were badass warrior monks, were they not?
These were just people who were recruited to the cause. Or
one man from every family must serve in the Imperial Army.
Conscripted soldiers, exactly.
Look, I can accept that historically Shaolin didn't have some super soldier army of Shaolin warriors, but Shaolin Kung Fu has to be real. I mean, what about all those guys claiming to be Shaolin Kung Fu masters?
People think, oh, I want to be like this, and I associate this with Shaolin. And so people start going to places like Shaolin with the idea that they're going to become able to be these fighting martial artists.
And I've spent a whole month at this temple, so let me tell you what it's all about.
I think what Dr. McLeod is saying is like, was Gojo Satoru the strongest because he's Gojo Satoru, or is he Gojo Satoru because he's the strongest, a la the chicken or the egg? If I was a YouTuber with a bigger budget, part of this video would be me going to Shaolin.
You're a Buddhist monastic trying to focus on like you're the Buddhist teachings and enlightenment and all these things, and all these people are showing up who just want to fight.
I guess I didn't consider that if we go back far enough in time, these guys weren't showing up to a Shaolin dojo. They were showing up to a degular monastery. But why would they even think that this was the wushu mecca of the time?
You get this kind of fictionalized fighting monks. The kind of most famous example being Lu Zhishan in The Water Margin.
Okay, quick Chinese history lesson. Water Margin is one of the 4 great classical novels of Chinese literature. And one of the most popular characters from Water Margin is this guy, Lu Zhishan. Think of him as like the Chinese Robin Hood. He was a disgraced military officer who becomes a monk, but never actually acts like a conventional monk. He ate meat, drank wine, and most importantly, he got into fights. He's the loose cannon type and basically the original warrior monk. But this was a really popular story, not just now, but even back then. So people are reading Water Margin and hoping to become these renegade monks. A lot of them start showing up at the Shaolin monasteries. Cool. But who was actually teaching them to fight? You know, when they actually arrived?
There's not much evidence that any of these were actually originated in or practiced at Shaolin before they were written about.
So nobody? Wait, but what about those bowstaff monks from 1553? I know Dr. McLeod said they were more like conscripted soldiers, but couldn't they have at least passed down some staff techniques?
The kind of staff fighting they're talking about isn't going to be super effective in warfare. It's going to be interesting for like hobbyists.
Yeah, charging into battle with wooden sticks sounds even more ridiculous when you remember that in China, cannons and gunpowder had already been a part of warfare since the 14th century.
If you go into battle with your fist, you're going to lose.
Yes, but according to the Shaolin Kung Fu videos I've seen on YouTube Shorts, true Shaolin Kung Fu masters can take a spear to the throat and a strike to the loins. According to Benjamin Judkins, a martial arts historian and co-author of The Creation of Wing Chun, there is no evidence that the temple ever developed its own unique forms of hand-to-hand combat. So, unlike Judo, which had Jigoro Kano and now has the IJF, Wing Chun, Hung Gar, and various other regional styles can all dubiously claim origins to Shaolin with no oversight.
Shaolin, in that sense, became a kind of legitimizing term. If I just have my Alexus McLeod martial art, who wants to practice that?
Which is really funny because as a Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioner myself, I am very wary of stepping into a Japanese jiu-jitsu dojo. It's different, just trust me on that one.
Some people likely could go to Shaolin, but didn't have as robust of a connection with Shaolin as they claimed.
Look, I'll be the first to admit to embellishing a little on my resume here and there. You know, so he who is without sin can cast the first stone and all that.
Chinese Kung Fu, it's something like Hinduism. You've got like a million different styles, right? A million different schools are under one big banner. Or the people who create these new styles and associate them with Shaolin all start becoming associated in the popular mind with Shaolin. But the idea becomes that all these things are taught at Shaolin.
That's literally the premise of Shaolin Soccer. If you haven't seen Stephen Chow's masterpiece film, please pause this video right now and go watch it. When I was a kid, I loved how each player on the team was a master in their own style of Shaolin Kung Fu. I remember there was like an iron head, a hooking leg, and some dude with a belly. I guess I naturally thought of Shaolin Kung Fu as like a university with different departments and department heads. But are you telling me the actual Shaolin Monastery doesn't teach floating step? Ah!
One way you can transform it is to say, well, we can think of this as meditative. We can think of this practice as actually aiding our Buddhist path. This is actually, interestingly, part of the story of how the martial arts became understood as a tool for self-cultivation, right? Part of that was through association with places like Shaolin.
So yeah, in the question of the chicken or the egg, what actually came first was the T-Rex. But that's not even the crazy part. Did you know that the Shaolin Monastery basically stopped existing until the 1980s?
The temple was actually destroyed in the 20th century, and it was pretty much abandoned.
Why? Well,
China.
yeah, at the end of the day, any monastery, even those in Shaolin, need the support of their community, and more importantly, the support of the government to keep running. During the Qing dynasty in particular, things were pretty tough for our friends in Orange. And eventually, in 1928, the warlord Shi Yusan set fire to the Shaolin Monastery.
It's vandalized and just left to rot, in a sense, in the woods.
And in 1966, during the Cultural Revolution in China, the last few remnants of the Shaolin Monastery, literally only 5 monks, were shackled, flogged, and then paraded as traitors throughout the streets.
The community essentially dwindles to almost nothing. It becomes more of a remnant site than anything else.
That was until... In 1978, a movie produced by Shaw Brothers Studio was released.
The 36th Chamber of Shaolin is maybe my favorite movie of all time.
It revitalized old legends of the Shaolin Monastery as the fabled, multidisciplinary martial arts university. It debuted with a box office of 2.8 million Hong Kong dollars, and today, Complex even ranks it as the 5th best kung fu movie of all time. After that,
everything was Shaolin. It was the 36th Chamber of Shaolin, right? Shaolin Invincible Staff, like Shaolin, like all these Shaolin movies.
Eventually, mainland China caught wind. You know, the place where Shaolin is actually located. They noticed a growing trend and realized, hey, we could make a Shaolin Kung Fu movie even better than these Waigo Run, and we could even do it, and we could even film it at one of the actual monasteries in Shaolin.
This was going to be the like legitimate version of the Shaolin story, right?
But wait, I thought we already established that legitimate Shaolin Kung Fu was more like a form of meditation, and that all those offshoot schools were basically the DeVry University of Kung Fu. So what were they planning on filming?
You add things that are more exciting in film too. You get a focus on techniques that look really cool, that are camera friendly, but not necessarily an overview of what you might see in a particular Shaolin form.
And did it look good on camera? Shaolin Temple went on to gross $85 million domestically, becoming the highest grossing film of all time in China. It sold 500 million tickets.
It was really that movie, the Shaolin Temple, Jet Li Shaolin Temple movie, the major catalyst for this resurgence of the temple in the 80s.
It's really this film that Shaolin Kung Fu can trace its modern day origins to. After its release, the cultural demand was so strong that the Chinese government rebuilt the actual temple to match the myth.
The contemporary Shaolin Temple that's there now, completely distinct place because the old one was destroyed.
Because remember, prior to the Shaolin Temple film, it was mostly just the ruins of a Buddhist temple in Shaolin.
It's essentially become almost like a Kung Fu Disneyland today.
If you've ever found yourself scrolling on TikTok and saw crazy feats from Shaolin monks, first, if it's not AI, then you can thank Jet Li and the Shaolin Temple for that. The 1982 movie, not the monastery. Just like in the 1600s, when fans of water margin showed up at Shaolin's doorstep, expecting to train like Lu Jishan, the Shaolin Temple was once again becoming a mecca for aspiring warrior monks. But this time, they're showing up to look more like Jet Li.
They have actual monks who are there, who are training and performing martial arts. They spend all their days, they live a monastic lifestyle and focus just on martial arts. And they do these really impressive acrobatic techniques. When you go, right, it seems more like a martial arts site than a Buddhist site.
And now, not only are there warrior monks who use martial arts as their form of meditation and personal Buddhist practice, but you can go visit and see the robes, the performances, the gift shops. It's kind of all giving department store in December. Since the success of the film Shaolin Temple and the subsequent influx of funding from the Chinese government, estimated to be over 1.3 billion yuan in relocation costs and upgrades alone, the Shaolin Temple as a cultural and tourism attraction has exploded. In 1982, immediately following the film's release, the Henan Shaolin Temple, the main monastery in Dongfang, Henan province, which is, the one everyone visits, had approximately 700,000 visitors. These days, they can expect anywhere from 3 to 5 million visitors every year. And in 2024, Dongfang's cultural and tourism industry welcomed over 31 million tourists and generated 32.5 million Chinese yuan in revenue, with Shaolin as the obvious focal point.
They're coming here to see people doing cool martial arts.
I love Kung Fu!
So they're not coming here to chant and to meditate.
So I guess it's not exactly like in the 1600s. I mean, at least back then, the Shaolin Temple was a Buddhist monastery where some martial arts coincidentally happened. Because now it's a tourist attraction for martial arts, seasoned with some Buddhism. Oh, guys, where are my manners? If you've watched my previous video on Tai Chi, you'd know this is the second time I sat down with Dr. Alexus McLeod, and I don't think I've ever properly introduced him. Yes, he's a professor of religious studies at Indiana University with a focus on Chinese history and philosophy. Yes, he's also a multi-time published author. But did you know he's also been training in martial arts for over 20 years?
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
He holds a black belt in Taekwondo and is the head instructor at Excel Taekwondo in Bloomington, Indiana. You can find my full-length conversation with him and more on my Patreon. Because if anyone is a warrior monk, it's Dr. McLeod, the man with a literal black belt and a PhD. These Shaolin monks are like his doppelgangers by comparison. So what actually is Shaolin Kung Fu?
We can sometimes get too carried away when we get only into the fighting aspects that it becomes all about violence, linking the martial arts to places like Shaolin. I don't think it's a corrosive myth, right? I think it's a good myth, right? I think that having this idea of a particular place that gets associated with various forms of martial arts because of their self-cultivational purpose and because of maybe their self-defense purpose in connection with this older story of Shaolin as aiding the empire. The myth oftentimes plays this important purpose, right, in giving us meaning, right, and giving us a sense of community.
So why do Shaolin monks wear orange? I guess this Indian dude Bodhidharma. But the truth is, Shaolin Kung Fu is only a touch more real than Santa Claus. Now, to be clear, my goal is not to start going, actually, every time I hear Shaolin Kung Fu within a 5 blocks radius of me. However, when I do hear it, it is now with air quotes. And ever since I had my conversation with Dr. McLeod, I've been living with this cursed knowledge for weeks. So, congratulations.
You played yourself.
The curse is yours now too.